Hey guys, welcome back to Starcaster Remarks. Alongside Chris, my name is Ryan. This is the Dallas Stars podcast official of THPN. Thank you to our sponsors, DraftKings Sportsbook, and also to Game Time for being our sponsors as always. Chris, how you doing today? What did you think of the Stars 4-1 win over the Edmonton Oilers?
Doing good. Man, it was a tale of two halves for the Stars there. The first half of that game were honestly pretty awful by everyone except for the goaltender, Jake Ottinger, who had another outstanding game. I mean, what a start to the season for him. I mean, hasn't lost a game yet. Should have had two shutouts with this one. I mean, he was fantastic in the first half of the game. So many huge saves. But then the Stars responded well in the second half of the first period and in the third period. They really take it to the Oilers, have them hemmed up against their own zone. Even when they were down in the game, the Oilers didn't get anything going until the 6-on-5. So second half of the game, I thought the Stars played great. We just got to find a way to do that for the full 60. And I think it's a little tough with how many games they played in a row, though, too. I mean, you think about this one, they didn't even have a full 48 hours. It was 36 hours between these last two games. So really tough schedule for them, but they're managing it really well, 5-1.
Man, you just hit so many stinking bullet points that I wanted to hit, and I don't even know where to start with. But before we get into the depth of this game, speaking of depth, we'll get into that as well. I would apologize first off for missing the last game against the Capitals. There were a lot of good things to talk about in that game, and we missed it. Life gets in the way sometimes, and both Chris and I both kind of fell asleep, and yeah, that kind of happened. So it is what it is. It's mostly my fault. But anyways, getting into this one, Chris, Ottinger was obviously the biggest star in today's game. And yes, there are lots of good players that had great games today. Mason Marchment being one, Hintz, Stankoven. I thought Lundqvist was great. But all of that is a moot point if in the first and half of the second, if Ottinger doesn't shut the door down against the Oilers there.
Yeah, tons of huge saves. His positioning was great as always. Even with traffic in front, he was able to find pucks and make saves. But especially tonight, I thought his scrambly stuff, which isn't really his forte, I thought he was fantastic at. I mean, the big one you think about is that big cross crease pass to the blocker save in the first period. I don't remember who exactly it was on, but it was an amazing save by Otter there. And with a lot of movement, which isn't really that's not his style. His style isn't scramble over and make the big save, but he did it. He put the blocker on in a huge way, looked super confident. I mean, I didn't think anything was going to get past him tonight, and nothing really did, nothing that he had a chance on, at least.
He's just so sound positionally as a goaltender. And I mean, yes, it does help that he is huge and he's 6'5", but if you don't have the hugeness along with the skill and the position to kind of back it up, it does you no good. So great job by him tonight. We should also go ahead and mention he gets an 8-year extension from the Dallas Stars, $8.25 million. I think that is clinical work by Jim Nill there. I think that's a fair contract for Jake Ottinger as well. And I think it's really good that he gets it done before Igor Shesterkin goes out and signs a ridiculous amount, which apparently he rejected a 8-year, $88 million contract extension. I'm talking about Shesterkin with the Rangers there. So
yeah,
if that had been done after, I mean, it could have been a little bit more. So Otter gets taken care of. Nill takes care of that after the Swayman extension, gets the exact same amount as Swayman there. So good work there by both Otter's agent and Jim Nill to get a little bit of work done.
Yeah, and I think Neil made a good point about it when he was talking about getting that contract signed. Is like when it's your core players, you do what it takes to lock him down long term. And that's what he's done recently. I mean, with Rope signing that huge contract, now we got Otter under a big contract. It might be a little bit expensive. It's not exactly what you want. I mean, if you're ideal, you want to get him down a little bit lower. And if you have a bridge deal, you probably could, but that's your core guy. We know this is our number one goalie. You want to lock him down long term. That's exactly what he did. In 3 years, this is going to be an amazing contract for Jake Ottinger, in my opinion.
Well, he's already had a bridge deal. We all thought that the $4 million that he signed for was kind of a steal for the Dallas Stars. So he's getting his big contract now. So I honestly, with this contract, Chris, I think he's getting paid a little bit for what he has done and a little bit for what he is going to do. You know how most contracts nowadays, especially with young guys, it's like, this is what you're going to do. We expect you to be able to live up to this cap hit. And I think with this contract, it's a little bit of both, which is very good considering how a lot of contracts are nowadays. It's just what you are going to do, what we expect you to do. So again, just Jim Nell just clicking on all cylinders. Great job by him.
Yeah, and
And
to kind of
we're
compare it to kind of
go ahead.
compare it to the Swayman deal, sorry. They have the exact same contract. But it's a better contract for Otter, I think, because he's confirmed that he is good as a number one starter in Dallas for the past 2 seasons, and he's shown that he has the potential to be just a playoff drop dead crazy goalie. So he has shown that he can do everything, and that's why I feel like this deal's better than the Swayman deal because we have confirmation Otter can do it. He has done it, and he will do it in the future.
Moving on from that, because we could talk about Ottinger all night long. He was fantastic. And speaking of goaltenders, DeSmith was fantastic against the Capitals, too.
Yep.
We need to give him absolute props for what he did against the Capitals. Here tonight, the Dallas Stars start off a little slow. And like you mentioned, it's 6 games in the last 9.5 days, which is a lot of hockey, especially to start off the season. However, I thought they did okay and they hung in there. The Oilers were the better team for the first half of the game. The one thing that I couldn't quite get off of, and it was Razor who made this point, and he used this word. He used the word connected. And the word that I would use is synergy. Others would use chemistry. It was like it was just a little bit off that first half of the game. Like it wasn't bad. Like the Stars were playing great defensively. It's just that they couldn't quite get out of their zone. And it's like they needed that 5% or 10% more, whatever you want to call that, synergy, chemistry, whatever. And they just weren't connecting on their passes to get out of their own zone and even getting through the neutral zone and even into the offensive zone. So
Yeah.
that, at least for me, that's what I felt about the first half of the game.
I think you could even say the same thing for the Oilers, too. I mean, they had a little bit of passing trouble, I think. They were just stronger on their forecheck is where I think it really gets on the Stars and why we had such a poor first half. With the Stars' poor passing, like you said, the Oilers were getting on us quick and not giving us any room to clean up those maybe a little bit off passes, and it was costing the Stars big time in the first period and the first half of the second. So it was good that the Stars were able to figure that out as time went on and were able to put the forecheck back on the Oilers, especially in that third period.
And speaking of which, the game itself was just so much fun. It gave me flashbacks to the Western Conference Final, and I was like, these teams have just literally picked up where they left off from that 6-game series. It was so much fun watching the game overall, and both teams were playing very well defensively, and eventually the Stars were able to capitalize on some of their chances. Now, one of the things that was being talked about online was the lack of shots through the first 2 periods, especially maybe probably more the first 30 minutes or so.
Mm-hmm.
I know it was an egregious shot total between the two teams, 16-4 at one point in favor of the Oilers. But one thing I did notice is that a lot of the shots that the Oilers were taking were long distance shots, and they were just looking for rebounds, looking for tips, that sort of thing. And Dallas, the opposite way, was mostly looking for shots off the rush, and they just weren't connecting on any of their shots. That was just, again, just a feeling, an observation that I noticed.
Yeah, the
Thoughts
Stars
on
missed
that?
a ton of shots in the first period. I mean, they should have had at least 8. I mean, it wouldn't. The Oilers still would have had the majority of the shots in that period. They played better, obviously, but yeah, the Stars missed a ton of shots. I feel like they've missed a good amount of shots this year so far, especially in tight. In tight, they're trying to paint corners, which on Skinner kind of makes sense. Dude's massive, but you got to make him make a save. That's what Duchesne showed with that first power play goal. He's a little bit wary on those.
So let's talk about the depth for the Dallas Stars, because this is something we haven't had to really deal with the last 2 seasons. The last 2 seasons, the Stars have been relatively healthy, considering everything that other teams have had to go through, like the Colorado Avalanche and the Oilers, actually, for example, and even the Penguins. But now we have Dumba, who has moved to IR. We have Sam Steele, who is day-to-day now, and also Tyler Seguin, who is also day-to-day. So the move to IR was purely a move just to get Blumel back up to the Dallas Stars and to have a 12th forward in the lineup. But what's it to say for you about how well the Stars are performing despite the injuries that they are having to face right now?
Yeah, I think it's despite the injuries and despite some lackluster play. Honestly, we know there's a lot of room for
They're
this
not
team to
playing their
grow.
base. They're
Yeah,
not playing their best. Excuse me.
there you go.
Their base. The
Yeah,
base.
but this team is so good, like you said. There's room to make some mistakes. There's room to have some injuries. The Stars have great people filling in. I mean, having Matej Blumel come in after losing Sam Steele, that's awesome. I mean, that's a guy who he looked dangerous. He had several good chances. He just had some trouble pulling the trigger, I feel like, tonight. So I think that just shows how good the Stars team is, that we can play not our best and still find ways to win, and we can lose guys and still have guys fill in those holes and look dangerous too.
Speaking of him and that fourth line, I thought was very good for the Stars tonight.
It
They
has
had
been good recently.
yeah, and it didn't matter. It seems like it doesn't matter who's on that fourth line. If it's Sam Steele, if it's Oscar Back, Blackwell got the shorthanded goal against the Capitals, I believe.
Yep.
I mean, they have been excellent, and that's just been something we've been able to rely upon for the last, again, probably 2.5 years for this team. And it's just, plug and play. The guys just come into the lineup. They know what the deal is, and they take care of business. So,
Yep.
Along with him tonight, I thought Back had a good game and Blackwell had a good game, and the penalty kill continued to be ridiculous for the Stars.
Yep. And the fourth line has been good, like you said, for the past 2.5, 3 years, despite the fact that the players on the fourth line have changed constantly. And you got to give a lot of credit to that, to the NHL scouting staff for the Dallas Stars, of finding those players and knowing that they're going to fit well in that role for the Stars on that fourth line. And it's kind of grown as a line over the past 3 years too. It was locked down. We're not going to get scored on, but we're probably not going to get any looks either. This is a dangerous line now. These guys can for sure score, especially with Sam Steele, especially with Matej Blumel. Those guys are dangerous. I mean, you're going to have Dadonov on there, hopefully, if we ever get a healthy lineup completely. And having Dadonov in your fourth line is crazy.
Well, Dadonov has looked very good as a plug-and-play guy, by the way, up in the top six for the Dallas Stars, because they don't want to break up that Wyatt Johnston line with Ben and with Maverick, who have also played well together. They haven't, offensively been as dominant as you want them to be. Okay, that's fair. That's fair. But they haven't cost the Stars anything, I guess you could say. No. Is that fair?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, Ben and Johnston are still good defensively. I just feel like they haven't clicked so far this year with Bork there.
What I do want to talk about a little bit, though, is to switch to the special teams for the Dallas Stars, because that was the key. Other than Ottinger here tonight, kind of making sure that he kept the Stars in it. That's what started the offense for the game here tonight, Chris, was they finally get one on the power play. They don't just have the single goal from opening night. They finally get a second goal, and it was a great shot by Matt Duchene.
Yeah, and it's kind of on the power play. Like they win the faceoff and immediately score, so you're not even really looking at the formation or how they're moving the puck. It's just Duchene makes a good play, and it was a great faceoff win. Obviously, it's super clean, right onto his tape. So we'll take those. If that's how we have to score, that's how we'll do it right now. Hopefully that bursts the bubble a little bit. I am interested to see how it might look with Duchene on that top pair, though. I think that might be really good, especially with how he's playing. Just his ability to move the puck right now and find the back of the net. Obviously, with 2 goals tonight, he feels hot.
Yeah, he played great tonight, obviously with the 2 goals, but just in general, him and I honestly think Marchment has probably been the MVP of the short season for the Dallas Stars, because with his physicality, with his goal scoring, he's just been utterly ridiculous for the Dallas Stars, and he shows it again tonight why he's one of the best players in the young season.
And Marchment's defensive play too. I mean, he's turned into somebody who was a defensive liability, and now he is a back-checking fiend. I mean, he's taken his great forechecking ability and has turned it right back around the other direction at times. Tonight, there's that back check where he gets the puck off the stick on a potential 2-on-1, and then he clears a puck that was flying through the air, almost ending up into the empty net. He high sticks it out of the sky. So super alert, knows how to get the puck off the other guy's tape, and he's really grown defensively since he's been with the Stars.
And he showed a little bit of dangleness tonight. I don't know if there was a couple of plays in the offensive zone. I was just like, okay, we all thought Mason Marchment was more the power forward type, but he's looking like a Logan Stankoven or like a Wyatt Johnston out there tonight. So he's great.
Him and Duchene are confident with the puck right now for sure.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and speaking of the penalty kill continues to be a strong suit for the Dallas Stars. They've got it. Didn't look, but they've got to be top 3 right now in the NHL. Would be my guess for the penalty kill percentage.
Yeah,
Chris, go ahead and look that up.
They're at like 90%, so I would sure hope so.
I think it's like 95%, Chris, like 95 or 96%.
Yeah,
because
they're first. They're at 95.2%.
There you go. So first,
that's insane.
So first in the NHL, yes. So that needs to continue, and especially against a really, really scary looking Edmonton power play group, they shut them down tonight.
Yeah, and that's something that we were kind of worried about before we started the season with Hakanpää going out. Hakanpää and Lindell were the two best guys at that, and I feel like Lyubushkin's slipped in there and is done just as well, pretty much. So no complaints from me, obviously. So that's a great big green green check mark. Sorry, at the start of this season on that problem at least.
And the thing that's really interesting about the penalty kill is how many players are different on the penalty kill for the Dallas Stars this season. It's like you got Blackwell in there, and yeah, you have the typical guys like Essa, Rope, Wyatt, even Ben's been getting a little bit of penalty kill time. But on the back end for the defense, that's the one that has changed a lot with Lyubushkin. Dumba was doing a little bit, and Smith was getting in there a little bit tonight for the PK. So what I was just thinking about was what's the thing that's been consistent about the penalty kill and why it's so good. And I think this is where you need to give credit to the coaching staff and maybe specifically Elaine Nazardine, who runs the penalty kill. So that's something that has been constant and consistent through the last 3 years for this team, starting with the third season. So got to give him credit for how well they've started this year on the PK.
Yep, and we've seen them kill penalties the same way ever since Nazardine's taken it over. I feel like it's that kind of large box, and that's ready to pounce anytime you bobble the puck a little bit. It feels super suffocating for having 4 people out there.
It's very aggressive. And most teams do this style now. They're more aggressive on the penalty kill than they were in years past. But anyways, what I kind of want to move to now, obviously, is let's talk about the defense for a little bit. Because first off, I gotta take a step back on some things I've said about Brendan Smith. Brendan Smith was very good tonight. This is probably the best game he's had as a Dallas Star, and I have absolutely torn him to shreds with his play the last couple of games. And even in the preseason, I was just like, I don't like this guy. I don't like him. And with that injury to Dumba, he is absolutely in the lineup now. And at least for me, that the hit that he had in the middle of the second period, I think it was like 12 and a half minutes left or something like that. That hit kind of energized the Stars, forecheck a little bit in going into the offensive zone. And that started it. So he deserves some credit for that, showing the physicality that he did. And he also deserves some credit for the defensive plays that he had tonight. He was much, much better tonight than I've seen him in games past.
Yeah, I think he had a much better game tonight as well. And yeah, that hit was a big deal. It was an emotional swing there for the Stars when we really needed it to happen in the middle of the second period there. He's fine as a seventh defenseman. I feel like I don't want him to be here long term. I am a little bit surprised that we haven't seen Petro or Bishop up there instead, especially with Dumba going to IR. You'll have to be there for at least a week. So it looks like Smith is going to be the guy they're going to keep in there and just at least see how it goes. But the time on ice spread just isn't great to me, and it's not something you want to keep long term. Smith has got 12:39 time on ice, and we have Miro, Lindell, and Harley all pretty much right at 24 minutes. That's kind of a lot. Pretty big spread there from our top 3 guys to our bottom 3 guys. But he did have that big play tonight, and I thought he did play better.
So let's talk about this real quick, Jacob, with a question. Can we also talk about Robo's physicality too today? I think that sparked some more physicality for the rest of the team and some energy. That's absolutely true. Yep. This was one of Robo's more noticeable games, in my opinion. I know he scored on opening night, and he's been kind of a little bit invisible, since then. But I thought he had a very good game tonight.
Yeah, and I like it when he throws the body a little bit more. That's something he kind of learned during the playoff run this past year. And I think it's been great, at the very least, for energy for the team on the forecheck when he throws the shoulder like that. And he's a big dude. I mean, his play style, you think he's a smaller guy because he's, like you said, he kind of hides in the shadows, kind of Hyman style and waits for his chance to score, or get it banked off of him. But no, he made his presence known tonight, and I think he needs to do more of that. Especially he's the biggest guy on that line with Rope and Stankoven now.
Right. Yeah, he's like what, 6'2"?
I think he's like 6'2" or 6'3".
I think he's 6. He's not 6 foot. I'm pretty sure he's 6'2", 6'3". He's got to be something like that.
He's pretty large, especially compared to his brother, Nick Robertson. I think Nick is like 5'10", 5'11".
Yes, that is true. And Jeff was reading my mind. This was in the back of my head as we were talking about the defense here. But also, Nils was a brute. And he was. He has been very impressive to me this season. And especially the last couple of games, he has been very quiet defensively in his own zone. And the physicality that he has shown, along with some other players like Robo and like Smith, he's not getting pushed off the puck anymore. If anything, he's either equaling the physicality of the forwards of the opposite team or, overpowering other forwards on the other team. So that's something that I love to see and that needs to continue for him. So, and while you were talking about the kind of the mismatched time on ice between the defensemen, maybe it's time to give Nils Lundkvist a little bit more time. And again, it's still early, but you don't want to be overplaying those three guys playing 24 minutes a night like that.
Yeah, and he definitely is already getting a little bit more time on ice than last year, but he's getting a pretty good chunk. He's got 16:07 tonight. So, and he played really well. I agree. His physicality around the net is a massive improvement from last season, especially you think about the beginning of those playoffs, him just getting fully bodied off the puck, unlike the first or second game against Vegas. I mean, that was ingrained into the coach's mind, I'm sure, and why he stayed out of the lineup the rest of the playoffs. But if he keeps moving people around Otter like this, I mean, he's going to stay in there.
Speaking of other smaller, littler players, Stankoven, it's not fair. It's not fair. I want him to get a goal so bad, and he has so many freaking chances. But he is currently leading NHL rookies in scoring, but not goal scoring. He literally has 7 assists in the young season. And we're 5 games in? 6 games in?
6.
What is it? 6 games in. So he's a point per game player, assist-wise. Those goals will come eventually, but him showing the reason why he's on that top line with Rope and Robo. And I thought that, Dutchy and Mush were a better line tonight than the top line, but they still were also very good and getting some very good chances. And then they got rewarded for it here tonight as well.
Yeah, and that passing play was beautiful. That's the stuff that we saw with Pavelski on that line. Just those quick tic-tac-toe in the back of the net before you even see it. That's exactly what we want to see. I think Stankoven has played better on that top line than Johnson has. I think that deserves a little bit more time to marinate and see how that goes. And yeah, Stanky's playing fantastic. We always talk about it anytime we bring up Stankoven, but his tenacity on the puck, which is my favorite verb for him, is just amazing. He always goes and gets it, finds a way to get it, even though he's 5 inches shorter than everybody else. And he has some crazy skill. He's going to find the back of the net soon, and he's in the lead for the Calder right now.
I hope he is, because obviously with Celebrini missing a couple of games, that kind of hurt him a little bit in the early season. But he's turning some heads, Chris. He really is. And when you look at the Stars right now, he's kind of the one leading the way right now. Just the way that he plays, his motor that keeps going, and he's the one that kind of gets things going for the Stars offensively a lot of the time. So I really hope that he gets rewarded with a goal here eventually. But I mean, who cares how he's doing it? He's helping his team win, and that's really all that he really cares about. So it's just fantastic being able to watch him with what he does. So anyways, we've kind of talked in circles a little around here tonight. Anything else that we need to talk about?
One issue I kind of want to bring up a little bit is just our defense's lack of scoring so far, and their lack of, I guess, kind of wanting to get up the ice. The guy who I saw most offensively and driving play into the offensive zone was actually Esa Lindell a lot. You saw him breaking into the offensive zone. And maybe there's a little bit of wariness because we don't have Matt Dumba back there, and we're kind of a little bit light on the defensive side. So Miro and Harley want to stay back a little bit more, but we need those guys to help us score. I mean, it doesn't have to be goals, but they got to be finding good passes like we know they can. Miro had a good one. They had a great chance with that long cross zone pass on the one timer that was a big save by Skinner. But we need to see him jumping up in the rush a little bit more, I think, for both Miro and Harley.
So that is very interesting that you mentioned that, because, and maybe it's just because Dumba has been out of the lineup and they've been trying to focus more on the defensive side. But yeah, that is interesting to kind of point out. It's a good observation to make, because especially Harley's since the beginning of the playoffs and maybe like the last 2 weeks of last season, we haven't seen a whole lot of the offensive side from him. And I'm not sure why. And it's not necessarily a bad thing, because the Stars have been able to still win and everything, but we have yet to see the best of the Dallas Stars.
Yeah, I'd be more worried about Miro. I mean, he has 0 points, no assists, no goals through 6 games. I mean, that's your guy who you're trying to say is your Norris Trophy winner. He's got to have some points if you want to get him up there.
He's got to have more than just some points. He's got to have like at least 70, I think. I think that's stupid, but it is what it is. There's not a ton of stats looking here that we really need to talk about, other than things we've already talked about. Just the disparity between the shots between the periods: 11-2 in the first for Oilers, 10-9 in the second for Oilers, and then Stars surprisingly have more shots than the Oilers in the third period, 13-10, and it's 31-24 overall. But that is one thing that I wanted to talk about in the young season that we've seen a lot of from the Stars, is they have been outshot in just about every single game, I feel like. And I don't have the stats to back that up. I haven't looked at every game, but that's been fairly consistent for the young season. And again, who cares? Because they're winning for the most part. But should we be worried about something like that?
I wouldn't be too worried about it. The Stars, I don't feel like their wins have correlated to their shots, like if they won the shot battle all that often. It'd be interesting to go back into last year and take a look at that. Actually, we should probably do that. But I don't think it really correlates a lot. You look at the game we've had the most shots in is last game with the Capitals, the one that we lost. So I think it's more of a signal that you're trying to claw back more so than it is you're controlling the game. So that's why shots is always a stat that can be misleading a little bit. But yeah, I'm not too worried about it. I think as long as they start hitting the net a little bit more, especially like in the first period, I don't think it'll be an issue.
The other stat that continues to be in the negative for the Dallas Stars, again, who cares? Because we're pulling out the wins. That's the one that matters. But face-off percentage. That's something that the Stars have been absolutely dominant in the last 2 years. And we don't have Radek Fox anymore, who is a big face-off guy for us. But there's still a lot of guys on this team that are the same guys. I mean, Roope Hintz has been good. Wyatt Johnson has developed into a very good face-off guy, and then obviously Jamie Benn has been one of the best in the past 4 or 5 years. And tonight is another example of that. It's 63% face-off percentage for the Oilers and 37 for the Stars. So I mean, that's pretty much getting dominated in the dot.
Yeah, I mean, tonight you were also missing Sam Steele and Tyler Seguin, though. So I'm not too worried about that. And we saw an improvement after that first game with the Preds of the Stars face-off ability getting better. So I think if you're missing 2 of your main centers that are great at taking draws, I wouldn't worry too much about your face-off numbers for one game.
The one stat that has continued in the positive for the Stars is the block shots. That's been something they have gotten a lot better at, and they had 22 tonight, and that's something that I like to see continue as well. So there's lots of things that we could nitpick at right now, because our team is 5-1 right now. But long story short, Stars take care of business here tonight against a very good team. It was a very entertaining game for me. I loved watching it. It felt very playoff-esque, and again, maybe it's just because we just got off a Western Conference final against this team, but it felt like it. Like throughout the game, it was very staunch defense from both teams, and the Stars were able to take advantage on the special teams tonight. So that's just about it. So who you got for your biggest winner, biggest loser tonight?
I'll take the easy biggest winner first. Jake Ottinger, starting the season with 953 save percentage, hasn't lost a game. I mean, and what a game to. This is his first game since signing that new contract. What a statement to make. Like, hey, I'm your guy. And he's been fantastic at home this year, too, which is another preseason thing we were harping on, is he's got to find a way to play that as good as he does at home as he does on the road. And he's for sure done that for the Stars. He's been fantastic.
To be completely honest with you, I don't even know who I want to give mine to because there's so many players. But since we're talking specifically about this game, I'll give it to Mason Marchment. He was probably the Stars' best forward tonight. And yeah, Duchesne deserves a lot of credit for getting 2 goals here tonight. He's offensively the best player. But Mason Marchment really led the way tonight with his physicality, with the stuff that he was able to do. And he's worth every dollar of that $4.5 million that we gave him a couple years ago. So but again, Stankoven, you could have chosen Duchesne. You could have picked, Hintz, because he scored a goal in the game here tonight. There's a lot of players you could have picked.
Yeah, a lot of guys had good games in that second half.
Okay, biggest loser. Who do you got tonight?
Biggest loser is going to be I'm going to give it to Connor McDavid anyway. He got a point, but he didn't score. Suck it, McDavid.
He did get a point, and that's not fair. He didn't score, but Draisaitl was the one that scored.
Yeah.
So he's the guy that's making $14 million. I think starting next year. That's nuts.
Crazy.
To me. Can you imagine what McDavid is going to get? It's got to be like 16 at least, right?
It depends if he wants to win or not. If he doesn't want to win, he'll take 16.
Yeah, I guess that's true. But for me tonight, I will give it to. I guess I'm just specifically thinking about it. The turnover behind Jeff Skinner for the Hintz goal. That was a really bad turnover. I don't even know who it was back there. I'm seeing Darnell Nurse a couple of times over there. So I'm just going to guess it's Darnell Nurse who was at least on the ice for that goal against. So that'll be my biggest loser tonight is that turnover. So, okay. I think that's it. We'll be back with you guys again here Tuesday for sure when the Stars take on, Chris, help me out.
The Buffalo Sabres. We have a 2-day break for the first time of the season. What are we going to do?
Yeah, I don't know.
We're going to watch Monday Night Football? Yuck.
I don't know if I want to. I don't know if I want to watch after last week. Anyways, guys, thank y'all so much for hanging out with us here tonight. I know we were a little late tonight, but it's kind of my fault. I took my family to the pumpkin patch this afternoon, so didn't start watching the game until 4:30 or whatever. Yeah, I know.
Nasty.
I got some pictures that I absolutely enjoy. There's a great little pumpkin patch out here in Farmersville now. So, anyways, sarcasticremarks.com is the website. sarcasticremarksshop.com is the merch store. That's the best way to support us and what we do. Thank you to DraftKings. Thank you to Game Time for the sponsorships as always. And as always, please go and use that promo code THPN the next time you go and use their services. Alongside Chris, my name is Ryan. We will catch you guys on the flip side. Hope you guys have a fantastic afternoon, evening, morning, whenever you guys are listening. Chris, take us out.
We're tracking it now. Number 1 in the league, baby. GG, boys.